Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome participants to the 8th week of our course on literature, culture and media. In the last module we had seen how culture and media are interconnected, shape each other and are also shaped by each other. We have seen how different media theorists in the beginning of the 20th century have started to talk about these interconnections. It is in the 20th century that the media technologies grew at a very fast pace, and therefore it was only logical to imagine the critical work in this area. One of the major theorists whom we would discuss in today's module is Marshall McLuhan, who is primarily known as a medium theorist. He is a formalist and often he is termed as a propounder of medium theory or channel theory or as a medium formalist. He has raised various questions in his work. For example, what are the different channels of communication and how do they differ, particularly in terms of influencing the cognitive processes which are required among the people to understand, interpret and use them. He has also tried to find out answers in explanations to the issue of how a medium alters perceptions of people and thereby influences society and culture. The medium theory examines physical, psychological and social variables as the senses that are required to attend to the medium, to understand it and to use it. It also depends on whether the medium which is being used is bidirectional or unidirectional. It also looks at the efficacy of a medium to quickly disseminate a message among the number of people. It also reviews the simplicity of decoding a message in the context of a particular medium and at the same time the number of people whom a particular medium can access immediately. The symbolic environments of any communicative act are also looked at in the medium theory. These variables determine the use of the medium and as well as the impact in the context of social, political and psychological environments in any given cultural setting. Marshall McLuhan has written various books, even though the most famous book which is written by him is with the title Understanding Media, the Extensions of Man, published in 1964. The other books have an equal significance to understand how media functions in contemporary days. There has been a renewed interest in Marshall McLuhan's work because 30 years before the internet was invented, he had prophesied its invention. His first book, The Mechanical Bride, Folklore of Industrial Men, had come out in 1951. His last book, The Global Village, Transformations in the World, Life and Media in the 21st Century, was published in 1989 posthumously. The first book, The Mechanical Bride, Folklore of Industrial Man, is a pioneer study in popular culture. This book has been deeply influenced by the works of Dennis Thompson as well as F.R. Lewis. Particularly, it is influenced by F.R. Lewis' book entitled Culture and Environment. The title of this novel has been influenced by a piece of Marcel Duchamp, who was a Dadaist artist. This book has been written with what McLuhan has termed himself as a mosaic approach. It is a collection of essays which can be read independently as well as an interdependent whole. In all these essays, Marshall McLuhan has begun with an analysis of either a newspaper article or a particular advertisement, and keeping it as a focal point, he has tried to understand the eclectic cultural associations and ramifications of that particular article or advertisement. His next book, The Gutenberg Galaxy, The Making of Typographic Man, was published in 1962. In this book, McLuhan has examined the emergence of what he called as the Gutenberg Man. As we can understand easily on the basis of the title, McLuhan has tried to understand the changes which have been brought about in our culture and in our psyche collectively by the advent of the Gutenberg press or the medium of the print. According to McLuhan, the technologies are not simple inventions. They change people. They also help individual human beings to reinvent themselves in terms of the capacities which might be latent in them. His idea is that every technology, particularly the technology which is related with communication or media, has the capability to change the cognition patterns and the perceptions of human being. According to Marshall McLuhan, the movable type, when it was invented, encouraged a sense of homogeneity, standardization and repeatability, because prior to this technological invention, it was not possible to create an exact replica of any book even. So, the invention of movable type created a technological revolution as well as a cultural revolution which changed the way human beings understand things and at the same time interact with each other. Marshall McLuhan has termed this shift from a culture of common interplay to the tyranny of the visual over the oral. It is important for us to note that McLuhan has distinguished phonetic alphabet from logographic or logogrammic writing systems. These systems in which a particular character represents a word, for example, the Chinese characters, the Egyptian hieroglyphs, the Japanese kanji or the cuneiform systems also. He writes that the world of visual perspective is one of unified and homogeneous space. Such a world is alien to the resonating diversity of spoken words. So, according to him, language was the last art to accept the visual logic of Gutenberg technology and the first to rebound in the electric age. So, we find that with the help of the discussion of technological advancements in the field of media, he is also trying to understand the changes in human culture. He has also suggested that the invention of the printing technology has reduced the vagaries of handwritten manuscripts because they promoted a linear culture. It also resulted into commodification of literature, emergence of an independent figure of the author, and at the same time the public culture which emerged after it was very different from the previous one. As we have already noticed, it motivated mankind towards a rational and linear approach towards things, resulting into various international changes. His treatise Understanding Media, The Extensions of Man is his most widely known work. It is in this work that we find the phrase, the medium is the message, which is the phrase which is most commonly associated with the work of Marshall McLuhan. His focus in criticism is not merely on the content, but also on analyzing the medium itself. According to him, medium also affects the society, initiating several changes. In the previous discussions, we had seen how McLuhan had given the example of the railway networks. Another example which he has given is that of a light bulb. According to him, the light bulb does not even have a content. It is a sheer and simple, a very primary technological invention. but it has initiated various changes in human habits in terms of claiming the time after the dark. So, the type of activities which could be conducted after the invention of a light bulb initiated changes in the way human beings could organize their day, their business activities and other entertainment activities. So, the simple invention initiated a change in our cultural values. In the same way, when we adopt a new technology, particularly the new media technology, our worldview also changes. And since in the 20th century the media technologies are developing at a very fast pace, we find that our perceptions in the context of cultural understandings are also changing in a very fast manner. As people had tried to criticize Innes by saying that he proposes an argument which is basically deterministic, the similar idea has also been propounded by the critics of Marshall McLuhan. He is also criticized for forwarding what is normally known as technological determinism. As with any other deterministic theory, the basic claim in this is that there is a single cause or phenomenon which determines the other aspects of life. This theory of technological determinism states that technology, particularly the media technology, decisively shapes how individual human beings think, feel and act, and how societies organize themselves and operate themselves. McLuhan suggested that the new media technologies exert what can be compared with a gravitational pull over cognition. These changes in our cognition change the social organization, and therefore, the new technologies in the context of media transform and alter our perceptual habits, affecting not only individual cognition, but also the way we socially interact with each other. McLuhan has suggested that there are certain inventions over the passage of time which are crucial for understanding the way human culture has evolved and changed. And these three things which are important to him are the phonetic alphabet, the printing press and the telegraph. So, he tries to understand what is the significance of these innovations for our cultural changes and how they have affected individual cognition and perception also. As we have already seen, Marshall McLuhan basically contends that technological inventions result in significant cultural shifts and changes, and therefore, there are cultural repercussions of every technological changes and advancement. Changes in communication technology shape human life, and I quote a sentence from Marshall McLuhan in which he says, "We shape our tools and they in turn shape us." So, the way we develop the media technology, we are shaped by them. So, the way we live and understand the reality in ourselves is primarily a function of how we process information which we receive through different sources of media. So, phonetic alphabet, printing press and telegraph dramatically altered the way and the speed with which people perceived themselves and the world around them. And therefore, according to him, these are the three most significant technological developments of mankind. He has also suggested that media is an extension of our senses. His idea is that in every age, our culture is dominated by a particular medium. So, in every age there is a dominant medium which dominates people, and at the same time it acts as an extension of our physical and our nervous system to enhance the power and speed with which we can work. This is a very old and conventional analogy, but the way Marshall McLuhan has added the latest developments of media to it, it has become very interesting. So, he says that it can be any extension, whether of skin or hand or foot, which has affected the psychic and social complexities of mankind. So, in his opinion, the technology is seen as pushing of the archetypal forms of the unconscious out into the social consciousness with enhanced sensory perceptions, which the media technology has provided to us. Each new media innovation is in a way an extension of some human faculty. For example, the book is an extension of the eye, the wheel is an extension of the foot, clothing is an extension of the skin, and electronic circuitry is an extension of the central nervous system. So, in his views, media amplifies and intensifies a bodily organ, a sensory perception, or a function of human society. It therefore extends our reach, increases our efficiency, and at the same time it helps us to filter and organize and interpret our social existence by receiving the ideas and informations in a particular fashion. And therefore, these extensions of our sensory perceptions and cognitive perceptions also have psychic and social consequences, which cannot be undermined. By changing the environment, we find that the media evokes certain ratios of sense perceptions among us, and the extension of any one sense alters the way we think and act and the way we perceive the world. When these ratios change, we find that men also change. And the examples he has already given are wheels, which we have discussed, how phone has extended the voice, the television has extended the eyes and ears, and how the computers have extended the functions of the brain. Marshall McLuhan also treats language as a medium of technology, because according to him it is an extension of thought, an extension of our consciousness, ideas and feelings, because without the invention of language it would have been impossible for mankind to express its own ideas, thoughts, creativity, intellectual impulses, or to record them for posterity. So, in his opinion, the invention of artificial intelligence, which in a way he has been able to forecast much before its actual invention, is like approaching the final phase of the extension of man. It is a technological simulation of our very consciousness. So, he is neither a technophile nor a technophobe. He has also envisioned a move towards global consciousness, and it is his capability to foresee the changes in such an effective way that have made him such a profound voice in the context of media theories. McLuhan has also analyzed the development of human history with the help of the changing phase of media. The first age in human history, according to him, is the tribal age, which was dominated by an oral culture. The speech by humankind was developed about 20,000 to 40,000 years back, and at that time orality was the primary mode, and our world was an acoustic place. It was dominated only by the sounds. So, then we find that in this culture there was a lot of passion and spontaneity in human interactions. This is how McLuhan has imagined that the spoken word normally has more emotionality laden in it than the printed text, because the printed text allows us certain time gap in order to rephrase our passions and to understand our emotions in a better way. This time gap was not possible in the oral culture, and therefore the spoken word is normally more laden with emotions. And therefore, we find that the culture which emerged during the tribal days was of narrative storytelling, in which people had to be immersed deeply to make certain meaning of it, and at the same time there was a lot of simultaneity in the narration also. And therefore, the communities used to interact a lot and they were interconnected. These features change when the media of expression changed, and the tribal age was replaced by what McLuhan has termed as the literate age. The invention of the phonetic alphabet in Greece changed the situation, and we find that the visual became a dominant sense for the human beings. The ear, which was important to listen to the sound, was exchanged for the eye, which could read the phonetic alphabet. So, we find that there is a sudden shift to civilized private detachment rather than primitive tribal involvement and collectivity, which was a necessity of those time, and learning became a solitary affair than a collective narration or storytelling. And therefore, we find that it is in this age that linearity in terms of thought was promoted. It has boosted a logical interpretation of things, and therefore, mathematics or logic or science or philosophy matured during this time. So, line became the organizing principle instead of simultaneity. Another major shift came when we moved towards the print age, which began obviously with the intervention of the printing press in Germany in 1450 AD. So, we find that the vision, the linearity, logic, solitary learning became much more important than they were in the previous cultures, and at the same time visual dependence became much more dominant. At the same time, we find that repeatability of a particular book or particular printed medium and its reproducibility at a price which was affordable became most important features of this culture. It resulted into several changes which we have covered in previous modules. For example, glorification of individualism, industrial revolution, mass production of identical products, standardization of national languages by promoting vernacular mediums. Among other things, we can say that it also encouraged fragmented communities as well as the emergence of the middle class, leading towards very fundamental cultural shifts in the 20th century. The 20th century has been termed as the electronic age by Marshall McLuhan. It begins with the advent of the telegraph in 1840s, which was a revival of orality as well as tacticality. It is in the 20th century, when the electronic age becomes mature, that the idea of the global village emerges and new media forms like television encouraged spontaneity as well as involvement at a bigger scale. The instantaneous communication signals also indicated the return of a pre-alphabetic oral tradition, where immediacy of understanding and communication was important. Even though in the emergence of the new media, sometimes we can say that the linear and the logical thinking fades, but it does not actually fade. We can say that simultaneously the oral tradition has become much more important than it was previously. So, we have a coexistence of linear and logical thinking and the significant oral traditions and tactility. When Marshall McLuhan has said that the medium is the message, we find that the phrase can be interpreted in various ways. To begin with, we can say that the medium defines the meaning of communication, and the form is much more important than the content, because the content is shaped by the form. At the same time, we find that the medium has the power to manipulate our perceptions of the world, because it can lull our consciousness, it can alter our cognition, and thereby it can change our perceptions. So, it defines the medium of communication. Form becomes much more important, because the form has the capability more than the content to lull our senses, and therefore, mass communication has become the dominant form of interaction, the capability of the medium to be accessed by a large number of audience simultaneously. So, we find that when McLuhan has suggested that medium is the message, he communicates all these ideas simultaneously. As we have seen earlier, he has also been critiqued by various people. And one of the foremost critics of Marshall McLuhan is Carey, who has written that his argument rests on the grounds of psychology of perception, which in fact is primarily a weak foundation, because it can never be defined in a very straitjacketed manner. The assumption that the shape of sensory impressions is determined by the structure of media is at best a generalization which cannot be scientifically proved. Carey also says that McLuhan has overlooked the struggle to overcome the limits of any media through subversion and invention of new and different forms of representation. At the same time, the audience cannot be a passive entity which can be molded absolutely and entirely by the media. As some other critics in the beginning of the 20th century have pointed out, it is within the media that the possibilities of subverting the dominant culture also emerge. So, these aspects have been overlooked by Marshall McLuhan. It is also said that McLuhan's analysis lacks a systematic theory of the relationship between economy and technology. He has focused more on the cultural aspects which are influenced by technology, and he has been by and large silent about the market forces and the economic forces. And therefore, he lacks the critical appreciation of the appropriation and thus privatization of technology by the lead institutions, multinational corporations and the state in advanced industrial societies. And therefore, we can say that he has privileged media technology over all other aspects of social existence, which according to the critics should not have been overlooked to this extent. There is a little deliberation on the way technology has also abetted the capitalist and patriarchal structures in our society, and he has also ignored the problem of political economy. But still we can say that McLuhan's ideas have influenced the way the 20th century has started to look at the significance of media as a whole. We will continue the discussion of McLuhan's ideas in the next module. Thank you.